So I have to confess before I kind of start that I still have not got the name of this format. So I'm still calling it Machu Picchu. Srinath, my friend from the IT days, knows this problem that I have. I have distorted the names of almost all the IT professors. Okay, you can see. So today I just want to spend some time with you trying to give some purposive definition to creative computing and what it could be. For 10 seconds, I would like you to reflect, is creativity essential for our living or just an extra? Just a pause and think for a moment. And I would argue that it's the most essential part of our living. If you look around the room, all the technology that you see, the light, music technology, the mic that I'm holding, at some point human ingenuity has created it. Of course, along with many other things. It's also a source of the greatest fulfillment that we have. So when we are involved in the process of creation, we get what the scientist behind chicks and behind says is we get into the zone and the greatest fulfillment in our life. But it was not always thought to be of human faculty. In fact, it was said that Prometheus actually stole it from the gods and gave it to the humans, for which he was tormented and subjected to the eternal torment. And then there are these stalwarts, which we call a big creatives, who carried this forward. The artists, Leonardo, for example, Beethoven, who couldn't hear but still could compose music, Einstein, Edison, and the entrepreneurs who created the field of entertainment, and the way he created the whole entertainment industry. But these tools for the creativity have a strange and interesting kind of it. You use human creativity to create tools, and then you use the tools to create and express creativity. So this is a kind of a very kind of a self-professing, self-feeding loop. Today I would say that creative computing is actually the same kind of a tool, but a very valuable, but it actually its value lies in creating connection, exploration, reflection, and expression. And I will explain it through a few of the projects that we have been doing. Okay, for the time being, let me take you to Oslo in Norway. On this waterfront lies the Munch Museum, one of the largest museums dedicated to a single artist. Artist in this case happens to be Edvard Munch, whom most of us know through his famous painting, The Scream. Now he was a prolific artist, has 28,000 works, but museum space, however big it may be, can only, in this case, hold 3% of the display. Where the rest? And how do we access that? Interesting. So, very simple solution that comes to our mind is put on the web the date and hope that everybody goes and accesses it, but it doesn't happen. So we went beyond. We said, why don't we reach the artist to the very medium through which he did his art? In this case, drawing. So this kind of an innovation where you start drawing, and as you're drawing, the AI starts looking at your strokes and starts connecting to the archive and the whole archive that's hidden, and start fetching you the pieces from that archive. And suddenly, every visitor starts having a personal connection with Munch's art. Okay, so these are the kind of pieces. So you can have a very small interaction, and you can have a 1-hour session and do a kind of create your own masterpiece and find the connection with the work. The second part in the exploration is not just about finding the artworks, but also we sometimes wonder if we see a study how an artist would have created it. So part of our research goes into that in trying to decipher, find out. We haven't reached there, perhaps we'll never reach there, the exact process, but something that can give us some idea about how the things could have been created. So two of these pieces, one appeared in the European Vision Conference, and one was displayed at CVPR, which is about creating the sketches out of the given artworks and also coloring them, and also the whole process of creating an art, which is kind of automatically done. Then there is another piece which talks about composite reflection. You have a lot of Google photos with you. What if you take one of your photos and want to see it reflected with the other photos from your archive, or any kind of a thematic connection that you want to do? So our pipeline tries to build that thematic connection now that we can understand individual pictures through the artificial intelligence, and then bring the composite. For example, in this case, we have two cases. A Picasso is created out of Picasso's own artworks. Okay, and we have this a painting, which is a Renaissance painting, which is created out of the Renaissance works itself. But then we combine these two things together. What if you don't want to create a gilt, but actually want to have a feel of a brush? So what if we could actually paint with the paintings? So this particular painting, which appeared in lyrics and cigars, actually talks about this process. That you see an artwork and we kind of recreate it as if an artist is actually painting. But in this case, the brush happens to be a painting itself. You can see two of these artworks. So these themselves become a kind of an expression and also helps us to see by which way we can keep on enhancing this expression. Now, finally, I will just leave with you a piece that where we can we have a very difficult concept. For example, we wrote a paper on how the neural representations change the way we start understanding the style. And whatever we are putting, the architectures, the neural representation have an impact. There is no sound. If you can. So we have just taken clips out of the animation, which again was displayed in Nashville, US. So in this case, we created an analogy of the very complex concept of how the neural representation, the architecture, will finally impact the way we are looking, encoding our models, which will impact the way we understand style. So there is a loop and how we train them, what kind of representations we use, and how we use our architecture. So summing up the idea is creative computing, as I told you, can be about your reflection, your discovery, your expression, and the end is computing that amplifies human creativity and also creates access to it when you work in the collaboration with the machine and access the art. Thank you.